Again, check that your mic is on mute. That'll be really helpful. And look around the room. You may recognize some friends. We're still waiting for a couple more friends to jump
Yeah, and I'm
in.
seeing people chatting in the chat box. So that's a good place today for comments. And we'll start off in just a few minutes. You know, Shari is here. She's joining us today as special
Yay!
guest, and we're going to save her for the last. So you will hear from her. You will see her work. But give us a couple more minutes. Let me let everybody in. And I'm seeing people, wow, from all over. It's nice to finally have Europe be able to join us at a block.
Yes, yeah. So any question, you can type your question in the chat box and we will attend to it. So along the way, we will remind you, time to write your question, comments.
That's right. All right. So I think, Paul, if you'll jump in and introduce us, I'll let the last few people in.
Sure thing. So welcome to our block party. I was about to say our sketching PlayLab session, but today is special. Today is our block party, our fourth block party actually. So I'm really excited to have all of you here. I think there are more people coming in. So Suita is going to
I'll let them in as they come.
Let them in. Yeah, so we are really glad that you could join us today. This is our second session. We had a really great time, in the first session. So this one is especially for our European friends, so you're not forgotten. We are, really excited to do this again for you as well. So we are going to play, we are going to sketch, we're going to chat. You will hear a lot from us, myself, Sweeter, and also our special guest today, Shari. She's already doing some work, but we'll keep her, for the better half of the party. So we are going to tell you a little bit about, Sketching PlayLab. We are going to do a quick recap and look back because, we've traveled a long way. This is our 9th month. And we are so excited that it's still going and the playground is still open. And we're looking forward to next year as well. So there's some thoughts that we want to share with you. We will also tell you why we started Sketching PlayLab, especially if you are joining us for the first time. You have no idea what are these crazy people doing at the PlayLab. We will tell you a little bit more as well. And this is a free and easy session. So if you'd like to start doing your doodles and your sketches, you're more than welcome. Or if you just like to, listen to our sharing, that's perfect as well. So anything from you, Suita, before we start?
Thanks, Paul, for that. Welcome, everybody. This is actually the last announced session of the year, and it's a party, so that's nice. It's been a fantastic 8 months, surprising, quite inspiring. And it's been fabulous that so many of you are now familiar faces. They're part of my Tuesday morning, Thursday morning, or Friday evening, whichever session you've been at. That's fabulous. So thank you, all of you, for being here today, for having been here for all these months. What we'll do, Paul, should I just jump in? And
yeah, go ahead. So any administrative details before
no. Okay, yeah, very quickly, questions in the chat box. I think I said this before because we are now 3 screens full for me. So we're at about 55 people right now. So that's a lot to do, unmute and talk. So for today, questions in the chat box. And especially when we get to questions, when Shari shows her work and stuff, if they type in all questions you have, I'm noting them. If they are supply related questions, what brush do you use? What are your paints? I'll put all those links from Shari in an email I send sometime today. But if there are other questions about process, about, art related that are not links to materials, definitely type them in chat. We will try to go through them at the end of the session. So use chat box. I'm noting stuff. But before that, Paul and I are going to quickly just do really short presentations. I am hoping after this to do a 5-minute presentation and then let Paul do most of the talking, since I do so much of it in PlayLab. So I'm going to share a little bit of what I'm thankful for this year. And then Paul will, and then we'll let Shari take it from there. So I think you can see my screen now, right? So it's been
yes.
quite a year. In fact, it's been really good to have had to pause and think about what I'm thankful for, because there is so much in this year that uh, has been strange, difficult, and odd. And it's you really have to stop and think about what came of it. So for me, I've really been thankful for the idea of having family at home, not only because they're subjects to draw, but also because I got to spend a lot more time with them. And if you followed my blog for the first few months of lockdown, I didn't know what to do because I always pack a bag and leave and draw. And it was quite something to only be drawing at home. So my kids became my full time subject. They appeared in daily posts. They're quite nice about it. The cat, the kids, the husband, they became subjects.
Wow.
Yeah, it was every little thing they did. I'm now surprised that they let me draw them that much. I draw them, but I'm not usually in their face that much. So that was good. Uh, I also have been really thankful for the fact that I've, in general, had a practice in which I draw anything. I know I love to draw people, but generally I'm subject agnostic. I'll draw whatever. But in COVID, what happened is I really became thankful for the small stuff that became exciting. The construction crew at the corner, my car's parked in the front driveway, somebody that came to mow somebody's lawn or fix something. Everything became exciting. It became almost as exciting as going somewhere to draw. So it's really made me aware of the little stuff that is there every day, and it's kept me drawing from life, because all the things I never thought to look at before, I was forced to look at. And it's interesting. It's interesting to draw the world within 1 mile of your doorstep. I've been super thankful for community, and this PlayLab family has been a big part of it for the last 8 months. We've played together so many times every week, but also for friends. There in the top left, including our guest Shari today, is friends we often play with, chat with. Our excuses that we come together to make art, but it ends up being like a big laugh fest. It leaves me feeling connected and inspired. So I've been really, really thankful for that. And Paul, thank you. 8 months ago, out of the blue, Paul said, "Hey, you want to do this?" I am so glad I said yes without knowing what we were doing. It's
Yes.
it's
Thank
been
you for saying
fabulous.
yes.
No, it's been fabulous. It's really brought structure, inspiration, all sorts of ideas into uh, it not only gave my day and structure. You and I talked so much, Paul, and it was a human connection and an inspiring
Yeah.
one in COVID. But I also feel even outside of PlayLab, what we did in here inspired a lot of play, a lot of things. I mean, usually the tomatoes in my garden grow and then I draw them in a bowl and I'm done, right? But this year we drew them with all sorts of unconventional tools. We drew our drawings and cut them up and put them back together. So even outside of PlayLab, I think a lot of what we do in here seeped into my art, which I'm super thankful for. If you have seen my work before this, it's very, very rare for me to work from a photograph. This was the year I learned to work from photographs. So it's definitely been learning that way. It's been inspiring, and it's been nice to break some sort of ideas I had about that. Oh, it's going to be dead. I'm going to be trapped in it. I'm going to be stuck with what's in the photograph. Um, I have to admit, I love, love, love drawing from life, but there certainly was so much I could do from these and play with them that could not have happened if I only had to depend on subjects that actually come through my life. So I think it's a lot like how a lot of you have said about Sketching Play Lab. You've said, well, if you were not doing these Zoom sessions, we would have never met you in life because we wouldn't travel to where you are. So I think I definitely agree with that. I don't think online a connection is something that's going to go away. It's been so valuable. But for me, photographs was like that. I don't think I would have come to it without the pandemic. And it'll stay. It'll stay in the mix for me. On a lighter note, I'm really thankful that I never clear up my desk truly looks like those sketches I make. And that means I always have something on my desk that is worth drawing. So I never have to step out of this chair to be able to draw. And I'm super thankful for that. So that's been my thankful list. You've seen me draw the mess on my desk in many, many sessions. But that's it from me, Paul. Why don't you take it from
Thank
there?
you.
No, thank you.
So thanks for your sharing. So you can hear that the word thankful has come up many times. So this is the focus of today's session. So as you listen to us, I hope it also allows you to reflect on your journey the last few months. So it's my turn to jump in to share a little bit about my COVID, and also the last few months of spending more time at home, and telling you a little bit more about sketching
Well, let me
painting
do
as
a
well.
quick jump in for just a second before you share.
Sure.
I see a
Mhm.
question there saying, "What object do we need to paint?" Today, what we had in our party list is bring anything that you want to paint along. We're not gonna when there's no instructions and stuff. You're here to listen and to share, and especially if you have an object that came to mean a lot to you or a sketch that came to mean a lot to you in COVID. It's a good time to rethink it, relook at it, redraw it. But just draw
Yeah,
along or listen. Sorry, Paul, jump back in.
no worries. So yeah, so I'm drawing my hiking shoe. So I have one pair on my
That's right. Let me
table.
spotlight
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Paul,
So
you want
I'm
to tell us
drawing.
about why you're drawing your shoe today?
This is my hiking shoe that has seen a lot of trips. You'll see a little bit more pictures. But I've been walking a lot the last few months, and
Mhm.
I've never walked so much in my life until COVID. And
Yeah,
I managed to walk, go to a lot of nature reserves, go on
lovely.
hikes. So that's what I'm going to share with you, things that I'm thankful for. So
Great.
let me pull up mine. It's coming up.
Yes.
So it's my turn to tell you why I'm thankful this year. This is a picture from our first block party. Some of us were there, and you might remember the first time we came together. A room full of
Mm-hmm.
people. Some of us, strangers, but we became friends, and we just spent time chatting, drawing. Listening to us. We had a great time. So this is what we're going to continue doing today. Yeah, and Suita is going to chime in every now and then. So you are here, two of
Yeah.
us, talking.
And as Paul goes through this, put your comments about it in chat because
Yeah,
we'll be looking at it soon.
yeah. So I'm sharing with you a page from my sketchbook. During the first week of our lockdown in Singapore, and here in Singapore we call it the circuit breaker because the government wanted to break the virus that is spreading by making sure that we stay at home, wash our hands, wear our masks.
Mm-hmm.
So it was entirely a new experience for me, and you can see that being stuck at home means that I have to depend on technology to stay connected. And you can see also I've dated it day 7 of circuit breaker of lockdown. I was drawing my ink bottle, and you must have seen the number of times I've drawn my ink bottle during play session. So we make you do with everyday objects, the mess on our table, and we try our best to stay connected and engaged. And one special thing that I've never done before was to celebrate birthday via Zoom, virtual birthday party. And you can see on the right, we were celebrating Louisa, who is Rob Sketcherman's wife, birthday over Zoom. And how we did it was I bought a cake, the girls bought a cake, Jesse and Peggy,
And I
and
think
then we
Jesse and
just
Peggy are both here, right? Hi.
yeah. So virtual birthday parties are now the new thing for me, and it's fun, to be able to do it across time zone, and still stay connected. And drawing from photograph is also something new for me. But it's a really good way to revisit photographs of past trips as well. So
Mm-hmm.
that's first week of October, first week of April, and it seems like a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know how was it for you, in the early days of lockdown. So hopefully this is going to help you kind of, do a bit of reflection as well. Do you have any thoughts about your first week of lockdown? Suita?
Oh gosh, for me, I think the first week was panic. What? The husband and
Hmm.
kids are all going to be home for, and also not stepping outside. I think
Yeah,
it also some kind of suspended belief. I said, all right, we're going to ride this week out and then things will come back. So it took me a while to actually get to where you got and
yeah. Ah,
embrace
okay.
stuff. Yeah.
Cool. Second week was a little bit better because there was a little bit more routine. I tried to walk, maybe twice, three times a week,
Hmm.
and that was really helpful just to get out,
Yeah.
to be in nature. And then I'm really thankful also, the second week I had my sketching friends in Singapore. We
Yeah.
organized weekend sketching sessions together, drawing each other's lunch, as you can see on the
Nice.
in my
Nice.
sketchbook, and also drawing photographs again from our past trips. And those were really, wonderful and uh, very helpful moments, to
Hmm.
stay connected, to still hear, another voice, even though
Yeah.
it might be just a virtual space. Yeah, so that was really nice. And I'm really thankful for Zoom. I think, this is a wonderful technology to help us, stay connected to, almost it's real time, wherever we are, we can
It's been
still.
pretty amazing.
Yes, it is. Yeah, and thankful for friends, and you can see, I hang out with my fellow instructors from Urbansketchers as often as we can to just chat, stay connected, draw together, have a laugh. Um, and I'm sure some of us also benefited from all these virtual sketching sessions with your
Hmm.
friends as well. So that is the first thing I'm thankful for. The next thing that I'm really thankful for is for the Urban Sketches, because I think in April we started to hear how some of us were struggling with drawing the same window view over and over again,
Yeah.
and people were running out of ideas, and people were also in a really um, upended, unsure state. I can't go out, but I still want to be an urban sketcher. What do I do? So there was a lot of confusion, and people also wanted to do virtual sketching, as a way to cope, using Google Map and stuff like that. And we gave it a lot of thoughts. And a dear friend, Anne Watkins from New York, has something for us during that period where we were trying to make sense of what was going on. And she
Hmm.
wrote something really beautiful, and I'm going to get Suida to read it for you so
Okay.
that you become
So
inspired
I
as
think
well.
for some context, Anne Watkins wrote this on the Urban Sketchers page. So, Paul and I do a lot of these sessions, and they are not per se urban sketching, but what we want you to know is that you can draw from life, and also the all the sideways thinking and processes we try, you can try them in your urban sketches. But urban sketching is only when you're drawing on location from looking at something, and many of us felt, how is that possible, we're staying home, right? So I think this is really beautifully put, the idea of why you can keep urban sketching in this time when our physical space is limited. Our inner resources can stretch. Time to pay attention to what is at hand. Time to be closer to our families and neighbors. Time to sketch with our kids. Time to observe and sketch the cat on the windowsill. Time to view our windows as eyes to the world. Our unique and tattered worlds, our stories. Those are the silver linings of this incredible moment in history. Anne Watkins from New York City.
Yeah, and that really reminded me that being an urban sketcher is not just about going out on the street. It is also about what's right in front of you, within your homes, and
Mm-hmm.
things that you experience. So some of us, I know people started to take holidays in their own house, going to different parts of the house as little neighborhoods or cities to explore. So some of you were asking earlier, oh, what should I draw? As a way to remember. Yeah, hopefully this will give you some ideas. What you can draw to help you, be in that reflective mindset as
Yeah.
well. So remember, when your physical space is limited, your inner resources can stretch. Moving along, this because of this inner resources can stretch concept, that was also an impetus for a launch of our sketching PlayLab in April. And I said to Suita, would you like to join me on this play-based initiative, and without hesitation she said yes, let's go. And we talked about it. We did a trial, and then we went live. And this is a screenshot of the first one or two session. Must be one of the first 2 or 3 sessions.
Sure.
People came to play with us, and it was a playground for sketcher. And we always describe this PlayLab, a place for you to let your hair down, make a mess, play, and also experiment with the tools that you have in front of you, and how can you practice looking at sketching from a different angle.
Mm-hmm.
And the launch of Sketching PlayLab wasn't didn't happen by accident. Look, this photograph from 2015 when we met in Singapore for the
That's right.
symposium.
Yeah.
We did a big crit together because we thought maybe two pairs of eyes, two brain might be better at looking and giving advice. So because of this constant interaction during symposium
Mm-hmm.
and chatting about our own practice, and me looking over her shoulder all the time, seeing what she's doing, gave created that kind of relationship, that kind of friendship that was helpful for the PlayLab to take root. Any thoughts, Suhita?
No, it's been fabulous. I know I know I first met you in 2013 at my first
Yes.
symposium. I was so nervous.
Yeah.
You were in the middle of the Barcelona market.
Yeah.
And yours was one of the first sessions I had to cover in that one. So
Right.
yeah, it's been a
Yeah.
long time, but it's been nice to have every year to sort of reconnect. And it's been the same with Shari. I think I met Shari for the first time at that very same symposium. So yeah,
Oh,
2013. So I think the constant interactions, however little they may be, they're super precious. And in this time when we couldn't actually physically meet, it was easy, right, to
yeah.
make that connection again online because we did have a connection from before. So yeah.
Yeah. That's right. And you must have, if you have attended one of our sessions, you will always hear us say, please remember, give yourself permission to play. I hope right now you're giving yourself permission to play, permission to make a mess, and you'll have lots of fun. Sketching should be fun, in my opinion. And this year, the play session also had a few concepts that were ringing constantly. It was that the idea of freedom and control. How can you draw with freedom, and yet be quite accurate and precise with your technique as well. So some of us were invited to let go, and we did crazy stuff, and we did a lot of sideway thinking. And if you look at the pictures on the right, the screenshots of on the right side, you see that we even had a session where we brought our kitchen sink to the table.
Yes, that was
We
fun.
left all our pen, drawing materials, brushes, aside, and we just use things like a fork, a spoon, and that woman, you can see she brought hair from her dog and made a brush out of it, and celebrated unconventional tool as well, and
People
the
really got
last few
into the spirit of it, didn't they?
Yes, yes. Many of you got into the spirit of sketching unconventional. So we'll definitely run this again. If you're wondering,
Mm-hmm.
is this going to come back? We'll definitely run it again next week. We have also been taking a lot of virtual trips, packing our bags, traveling when we can't using our sketchbook. So that was a really fun session as well, shifting views and pack your bags. So if you're wondering what are those sessions, stay tuned. Next year we'll bring it back. So each play session, we bring out a concept, either new or old, we unpacked it, we put our spin on it, and then we play with it, for an
Mm-hmm.
hour and a half with you. So that's what we do at the Sketching Playlet, where we celebrate you. We helped you, think sideways, create opportunity for you to take risks, explore, and also hopefully, through that playing, you make discovery, and it hopefully becomes part of your own journey and practice as well. Any thoughts from you, Sumita, about what we do?
About what we do. Yeah, for us, so Paul and I, we not only run these sessions, we also get to do for everyone we plan a lot of, off-screen play, hours and hours and hours of it. So it's been fantastic. I know we lead these sessions, but we also have to learn to do some of this stuff.
Mm,
So yeah, it's been for me. It's really grown the possibilities of what I'm willing to try.
Yeah, so Sweden's not afraid of mess. So if you
No.
want to see how we make a mess, come the next time and join us for our sessions.
Yeah, definitely. In 2021, come back if you haven't come to a
Yeah.
session.
So we are. I'm thankful for sketching PlayLab. I'm thankful for all your friendship that you've offered us during the PlayLab, and we have also friends who came along to support us, like Liz Steele, who was on our last block party. She came, and supported us by giving a talk and a demo. And today we have Shari, which you will hear from her very shortly. So I thank you for all your friendships during this difficult time as well. And come the 20th June was the week that lockdown got lifted in Singapore, and I must tell
Nice.
you, looking at this page, it brings me tremendous joy because on the 20th of June I was able to meet my fellow sketchers. We went out doing urban sketching, socially distanced, of course, in small groups of five. And I tell you that small act of getting out again, seeing another
Mm-hmm.
sketcher, it's a really wonderful feeling. And of course, we have to throw in a cafe sketching after that, after lunch. So that's the photograph from our cafe sketching.
Nice. So
Even
you're
though it was
sketching
short,
in cafes now. You can go in and sketch.
yes, we can, but we have to sit in small groups, socially distant, maximum five.
Nice.
So looking at my sketchbook, I will remember. I think I'll remember this moment, this page for a very long time to come. So what we are gonna help you do right now is to practice gratitude, be reflective by drawing and redrawing special moments, or looking at your sketchbook and savoring those moments as well, and like or objects that mean something to you. So you can see the dragon fruit was something that I was drawing over and over again because I was just
Mm-hmm.
fascinated by the color of the fruit, the cookie shapes, even lady's fingers. I think you call it okra also became
Okra.
a
Yeah,
favorite
I knew
subject.
it
Yeah.
as ladyfinger most of my life, but now I call it
Yes, we call
okra.
it lady's finger. Yeah. So if you have started drawing, continue. If you are starting right now, just find something that you can spend the next half an hour, drawing slowly. And as we allow you to take this moment to reflect, I also like to share with you a piece of music that my dear friend Ming Kui has composed. Some of you may have heard a little bit of it. It's called After the Storm. Hopefully, as you listen to that music, it also brings about reflective state. Hopefully, it will also bring you joy as well. So here we go.
Lovely.
I hope that was helpful for you. And now we are ready to bring our special friend on, and she is no other than Shari Blaukopf. And I'm gonna let Suhita take over and tell you more about our special guest.
Lovely. So thanks, Paul. That was a lovely piece. There's a message from somebody asking who that was by. So we'll send a link to Ming's
Yes.
work, right? When we send out our email. Thank you for patiently listening through Paul and me. I know we're waiting to get to our special guest, Shari Blaukopf. And just very quickly, I don't feel I have to do a long introduction for Shari because I'm thinking most of you know her. If you don't, you're in for a treat. You're also in for a huge number of many years worth of blog posts you can go back and read. She's been blogging her art and talking about it for years on shariblaukopf.com. We'll send links to all of it. But I think there's been a treat for everybody in the last few months because I know most of us know Shari for her watercolors and her lovely sketchbooks, and she works in watercolor pen and ink. But it's been super exciting that she's been playing with all sorts of new media and experimenting so much in the last few months. So I'm going to let her talk about that, tell us about her journey for the last few months, and then we can watch her paint, ask her questions, whatever for the next rest of this session. So Shari, take it from here. Hi, thank you and welcome.
Hi, thanks. Hi, everybody. So nice to be invited. So thank you, Suhita and Paul. And I was really kind of zoning out on my painting and having so much fun with that music.
No?
I had to shake myself up. And
We have
anyway,
to spotlight you.
Yeah, okay.
So Suhita, you have the spotlight.
Oh, am I not spotlighting Shari? So sorry.
No.
There you go.
There you
Yay.
go.
There we go.
Okay. So anyway, I thought that today I would share a little bit about what I'm thankful for. And I do appreciate having the chance to look back at my work that I've been doing for the past 8 or 9 months, because I was telling Suhita and Paul the other day that I thought I really hadn't done much in these past 8 months. But when I put them together, I started to see themes. And so it's been really fun to just gather it all together and think about it, because I think we sort of try to, in this pandemic, get through every day and deal with every problem that we have every day, worried about the situation in the world and about our city and our families and whatever. So it's just kind of interesting to have a bit of time to reflect. So I will share my screen. I will just get my little presentation here.
There you go.
Can you see it?
Yes, see that.
Yes.
How come I can't?
Well, actually for right now, I see gray screen. I don't see the.
Oh yeah. So what happened to it? Okay, hang on. Let me.
I see the little thumbnail, so it's there.
Yeah, I know it's there. I don't know why it's not big. I don't understand why, but it did work the other night when we did it, right?
Yes, it did. So I can't say why. So
I can't say why either, but
so you know what we'll do? I might ask you if you'll send us a low-res PDF and we can share it later, because it's a collection of your work from the last few months, right?
Yeah, it is, and I'm so upset that I can't share it.
That's all right. Don't worry about that. We can
see your sketchbooks then.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I do have my sketchbooks here, but I'll just talk for a few minutes, and then I have my demo, which I'm doing and been working on.
Yes, so I'll switch to that. Tell me when to switch to your desktop camera, but we can, if you tell us a little bit, Shari. So, for many of us, Shari, watercolors. Shari, maybe watercolor pen and ink, but you've been doing a lot more recently, right? You want to tell us a little bit about what you've been playing with?
Yeah, I think that, and I will send it, Peggy's saying, send it to Paul. I will try and send my thing after, and maybe one of you can share it. But anyway, I guess the thing that I wanted to say is that what I'm thankful for is to have the gift of time during this pandemic. And it's given me a lot of I haven't been able to have that gift of time because I was working full time, and then I switched over to teaching workshops full time, and I was traveling a lot. And so now that I have the gift of time to be at home and to be with my family, and we had our sons here for 2 months during the start of the pandemic, and I was able to draw them, and then just having a lot of time to experiment, to create new classes online, which I didn't think I would have time to do. Thankful for my friends in the urban sketching community, because without connecting with you guys, I really felt like I was working in a vacuum. So you guys showed all those nice photos of our Zoom sessions where we're laughing and sketching together. So at least we had that. And that really made me feel like being a little more creative, because it's really hard when you're working on your own and you're trying to experiment. So I've been working a lot in gouache and experimenting with that, and playing a little bit with casein. But gouache has really kind of intrigued me. So that's what I have today. That's what I'm playing with today. And I can show, when you spotlight my sketchbook, I can show a couple of the other things in my sketchbook.
Yeah, let's do that.
I've been playing. So let's do that instead.
Yeah.
So
is this what you're drawing right now? So this is
what I'm drawing right now. Lovely. And I will continue on a demo for that. But I'll go back a few pages in this sketchbook just to see where we started here. So I always kind of like Suhita. I like to have the mess on my desk, and I've always loved to sketch my art supplies. And there's something so beautiful about about squished paint tubes. So this is a hot press sketchbook that I have, hot press paper, and I was experimenting with it. And I have these tubes of oil paint, and I don't paint much with oil because now I really like gouache, and it's so much fun to play with, and it's easy to clean up. And every time I take out oils, I get them all over everything. I'm a bit of a slob, so gouache is much neater for me. So I started with that, and I was playing with red on red, and I always have trouble painting red, so I thought, why don't I make everything red? So I took this red cloth placemat that I had.
I'm gonna ask you a question right there, Shari, because you said, sure, I'm afraid of red, and I painted everything in red, right?
Yeah.
To many people, that's an odd juxtaposition. I'm afraid of red means I don't paint with red. And so what made you say, I'm afraid of red, let's do a red painting?
Yeah, because always when I work in watercolor, the reds never come out the way I want. So I thought, well, what if I just, if almost everything in the sketch or my subject that what I'm looking at is red, and I can see how many different reds I get.
Wow.
And I have my little gouache palette here. And you can see there's just 2 reds on there. There's cadmium red and alizarin crimson. Those are the same that I have on my watercolor palette. And I thought, what if I see with these few colors, and yellow and 1 blue and a green and a brown, what I can do with that? Like, can I actually show a red background and red objects that are 3-dimensional and still keep the red in them, like still make sure they're red and we could see them, but how many reds can I make from those 2? So that was my experiment with this.
So maybe you can tell us why you are afraid of red or uncomfortable with red?
Because I find it hard to do red in light and shadow. So I try that a lot in watercolor. And so when you do red in light, you have to make it quite light to be able to show the red in shadow, right?
I see. Okay, I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah, so I don't know. Every time I do it, I'm never successful. So I just thought, this is something. I mean, this is a time that we have to be able to push those ideas, to be able to say, well, that's something that's difficult for me, so maybe I should try it a lot.
That's fantastic. That's a great way to approach it, right? I'm not sure it works, so I'm going to go all out. Because when I think of your urban sketches, especially when you draw like about this time of the year around Montreal, it'll be in grays And then there'll be all those signs, which are like little red dots all over.
Yeah.
Gray and red.
Yeah. So red
So
spots of
can
red
I
are not a problem.
Yeah.
Big areas
so
of
can,
red
can
are
I
a
just
problem.
jump in to interrupt?
Sure.
So maybe for the room, let's play a game. Can anybody guess what is Shari's favorite color? Now that we know she is afraid of red, what is the opposite? What's her favorite color? So go ahead, anybody. So type in the chat box and later we'll see whether you are right. So back to you.
Yeah, somebody says, I think she likes blue. Separately, while people are guessing green, somebody else says, Shari, there's a question for you on this very sketch.
Sure.
There's a question saying the shadows, are they done in 3 colors? What are they done with?
The shadows are done. I added ultramarine blue to the red.
So the red, do you mix it with red or do you just paint it over the red background?
I mix it with red. So I make like a reddish purple.
I see.
And then I painted that on top.
I'm seeing 2 greens, 3 blues. Sorry, keep explaining.
So yeah, and so the same in the blues. You know, I mixed a green from the phthalo green on here and yellow, and then I added blue in the shadow.
So different from watercolors that you don't just sit a color on top, but you mix it with the color underneath. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, kind of. Yeah, actually, you're right. So I'll show you. I'll mix up a little shadow color here just so you can see. Okay. And somebody's asking, how do I keep the gouache paints wet? And I should explain that. I discovered this little palette when I did a demo for Etcher, who makes sketchbooks and different art supplies, and they asked me to do a demo, in fact, of this. I did these red peppers on another page. So they sent me this little watercolor palette to try, and I'll show it to you. It actually comes in a tin, and here's the tin, and it comes 2 layers. So you have this layer, and then you have this layer, and you put them one on top of the other. Okay? Yeah. And it's intended to be, you put your watercolor in here, and then this is your mixing tray. But I thought, well, you know, I'm looking for something to put my gouache in where it doesn't dry out. So I thought, what if I put my gouache in this mixing area, and then I put this like a cover on top, and then I put it back in the tin? Will the gouache stay fresh? And the gouache stays fresh. Now I just put my hands in gouache. So just give me a second, because it gets a little mucky on the underneath part.
That's
so
okay. That's okay.
Let me just rinse off my hand.
I have a question, because I'm seeing that the part of the palette that has a zillion little spaces for color you're not using, and you're using like 6 colors. So many of us not in a medium, we buy a big kit, right? You seem to go the other way.
Yeah, I went the other way because I think the best way, if you want to learn something like a new medium, like, you know, like gouache or watercolor, whatever, start with a limited palette. And I took a workshop with this woman in oil painting last year, and she said she worked with 3 colors plus white for 6 years.
Wow.
So I thought, wow, that's cool. So I limited, I have a lot of gouache colors, but I limited in this palette, and there's not even any black. There's burnt umber and ultramarine blue and phthalo green, and then 2 reds and a yellow and white in the middle. And it stays wet for a long time, like several weeks in there if I keep it closed. And then I just have this butcher tray, which I use for mixing.
Okay.
And then I can just wipe that off, or you know, put it in the sink. And what's great about that is I used to squeeze out my gouache on the butcher tray, and then I would lose a lot of gouache and throw out a lot of gouache. So this is very economical. See, I leave it here, and I can even take it in my car when I go car sketching. Nice. So I have it right there, and I never waste paint, because when I want to paint, I just dip in and grab just a little bit and then mix. You see, so it's fantastic. So you know, I'm sure there are other things. You know, you can take an Altoids container probably and put some gouache in there, but I've tried other methods, and this one works. It seems to work for me.
Lovely. So we're seeing lots of almost all answers. The top choice for what is your favorite color is blue. And the second choice is the one that I'm even more surprised by. It's green. So you're gonna have to tell them about if you had, what was your question, Paul? Like if you have one color you can paint with, right?
Well, he said, "What's my favorite color?"
Favorite
But
color.
my
Okay.
favorite color, my favorite
Okay.
color,
You
and my favorite
can
painting
you
color
can
are
tell them
different.
later on if you want.
Okay.
Oh no! I
Keep them
mean,
in suspense.
I do love greens and blues, but to paint with, if I had to just, I think the question was probably like, if you had to paint with just one color, and if I had to
Yeah.
paint with just one color, I think I would paint with Payne's Gray, because I could get a full range of values with Payne's Gray. So, I want something that gives me lights and darks, and that has a kind of blue-black richness that's so nice.
Yeah.
So if that was, just one pigment, then I would pick that. Like Suhita got me turned on to listening to Desert Island Discs podcasts, and they always ask them on the BBC, and they always ask them at the end, if you had to take one thing with you to the desert island, you get one luxury item. So if I only got one luxury tube of paint to take to that desert island, I think it would have to be Payne's Gray, because then I could paint.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go. So now we had our own Desert Island discs.
That's fantastic. I have a question I'm seeing there, but I think I'm going to leave it for you for showing in whichever piece you want, or even your demo. It says, do you leave whites on the paper? Do you use white later? So
both.
You
so
want
I'll do a close-up. I'll do a close-up of this one. And this one, you can see there's both.
Okay.
So, okay, so this here is white of the paper, and then this is white paint, like that.
Do you have a thought for which ones do you decide to leave as paper, and which ones do you decide will just come later?
Yeah, it's by size. The big ones I leave as paper, and the little ones are the highlights that I can't paint around.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So maybe take it away.
Yeah. So here, here's the little skeleton that I did in the other block party the other night. Yeah, in the first one. But then I changed my subject today. This was a bunch of experiments for those peppers. So we'll quickly pass over those, and we'll get to this. And I'll just turn on a better light here, so maybe that will be nice. So I have these little ink bottles on my table, and I love all their shapes. So I started painting them and drawing them this morning, and I thought that I would finish off with putting in the shadows and putting in the highlights with you guys. So so now you know what my palette is, my palette of gouache. And I like Holbein gouache. I have a lot of tubes of Holbein gouache. So once again, I have cadmium yellow, cadmium red, alizarin crimson, burnt umber, ultramarine blue, and phthalo green, and white in the middle. I don't have any black on here, but you can see I have lots of darks. So let's just put my finger under that thing again, which is I keep getting my hand in the gouache. Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about the order that I painted this. And that's also kind of why I like gouache. I can sometimes paint in a different way than I do in watercolor, and I can, instead of leaving the whites, I can put the whites on top. But because gouache can tend to get chalky and opaque, I try to paint all the colors first that have no white in them. So for example, I did the drawing, and you can see some of the lines under here. And then I painted the background, and that was a very thin layer. And gouache dries really quickly, and it dries a little bit darker. So I painted a thin layer of yellow on the background, and this is the surface of the drawing table. And I think my friend Allison Hall is here, and this was speaking of thankful, this was a wonderful gift from Allison Hall. I have two things in my studio, a filing cabinet and a drafting table, that were gifts from her. So I'm very thankful for that. Thank you, Allison. So the drafting table, which was Allison's original, has a pale yellow surface. So I painted the yellow surface, and then I painted all of the darks in here. I painted, these are red inks and black inks and blue inks. So I painted all the darks because I don't want to get any white paint, I leave those bits of white. So I do the brights and the darks first.
Okay.
So all of these areas I did with my alizarin crimson and ultramarine. And then I got these beautiful dark purples and dark blues. And then later on, I started to add, you know, the pale grays. So now I'm going to mix a color for the shadows. And let's see what I have. I'm going to take, I'm going to reconstitute. So you can re-wet gouache. So I'm just taking a little water and I'm just going to get a nice gray in here. And then I'll probably add some white to it. And then I'll paint the shadow shapes. And I have multiple sources of light in my studio now. So I have all kinds of shadows on the table, but there's a strong shadow going from lighting these up in the back.
Okay.
So I'm just going to mix a little bit of color, and I'm putting a little bit of red and a little blue in there. And I want to kind of get a purpley shadow on the table. So you can see it's sort of a dirty color, but it has to be darker than the background itself. And I'm using little flat brushes. I like these little flat brushes for painting gouache. I don't use my soft sable nice brushes.
Okay.
So I'm just testing the shadow color to see if it's good. I also like on these flat brushes the fact that you could get a nice edge.
Sure.
And paint right up to the object. So here's my shadow. And we'll start with that. And I usually keep a little cloth or something. If there's too much paint, I wipe it off. And I try to mix up enough shadow so that I can do a lot of the bottles at the same time. Like I don't have, it's sometimes hard in gouache to come back and mix exactly the same color. Like you saw, I used a lot of the dirt on my palette, the dirty stuff on my palette. So it's hard to come back and get this kind of, you know, mousy gray color. So hopefully I have enough here to do all these little shadows. And anytime if there's questions while I'm painting these, because there's a lot of them, a lot of little shadows, you can ask me if people have questions. You can
put them in the chat box. It's easy to.
Yeah. And what's nice about gouache, especially when you're doing little things like this, is you can correct these edges. So I can just come back and put some dark if I mess up this edge. And gouache can be re-wet as well.
Okay.
So you can, and it dries so quickly.
Soften something if it's hard, right?
Yeah, you can soften the edge. So.
Shari, do you think differently when you're doing gouache compared to watercolor?
I do. I think a little bit more from dark to light, instead of from light to dark. I think I do that a little more often, and I try to. I don't know, because I like color so much and working with color and thinking about color so much. I'm just always thinking about shape and color. So where are those dark shapes? And like here, you see, I just painted another shadow, but it's a little bit darker. So I went back in and I remixed and I added a little bit of blue in there. So now I just got to do a little bit of looking and seeing where all the shadows are on the table.
Little bits, yeah.
All
and
the
it's interesting
bits.
because those little bits you're doing connects everything now, right?
Yeah. There's a little bit of light that comes through here, but it's nice. Now I see that I went over some of the dark edges that I'll have to come back in and do, but that's okay.
Oh, okay. And that's nice about gouache, right? You can have a question, Alison, that's kind of related to what you've been talking about. It says, does your design approach to painting differ depending on the medium? And I think you were just addressing that with how you see a gouache versus how you see a watercolor.
Yeah, but I think that the design of lights and darks, so my design approach to painting has to do a lot with composition, I think, and with thinking about values. It's the same in gouache.
Okay.
That doesn't change at all. If I was doing a bigger
order
painting,
in which you paint, but how you break it up in your mind is the same?
is the same.
Interesting.
Yeah. And now I'm mixing another little color because what I like is the overlap of the shapes of the gouache. So I'm just making it a little bit darker now. So I'm still having that same, I'll show you, same puddle of dark
Peggy has
shadow
a question
color
for you. Peggy has a question for you, saying that Payne's gray you mentioned, that one color you'd bring along, would it be the same for gouache, or was that like a watercolor answer only?
Oh, that was a watercolor answer. I don't know if I could just bring one tube of gouache. Because what I like is the way the colors combine.
Mm-hmm.
So see, like now I'm putting another shadow that there's an overlap of shadows here. So I'm putting another color, and it's just so nice to, take those grays. I love working with grays and neutral colors. So I took that same gray and then put another color, a little bit more blue into it. And now you can also work a little bit more transparently. So let's see if I can succeed in making this a little more transparent here. So I want to have
Do
this
you use less
overlapping
water?
shadow. Yes,
Are you
much
using
less water. Much less water.
Okay.
Interesting.
This is about as wet as I get.
Okay,
what I'm
last
doing
bit
right
you
here.
put in?
That last little bit that I put in, yeah. And because here I want the yellow to show through. See here, I want.
So you can almost use it like watercolor.
You can almost use it like watercolor. So there's a little bit of transparent color, and then I'm going to go back to a little bit of opaque over here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty fun. And there's another shadow over here that's a little darker. I could even get it maybe even a little darker than that. Let's see. I try to always use what I have on the palette.
Sure. You know what's really interesting, and we've talked about this a few times. For me, it's very fascinating how you see in shape first. Because, some of us see in shape and some of us see in line, but to me, it's fascinating.
Is that a fact? Like, do we know
feel
that?
So, like for me, I have to learn to see in shape. Line comes first. But it's been good to learn both of them. But when you're working in gouache like this, because it's patch on patch, it's actually easier for me to see how you think in shape because it's so clearly demarcated. There isn't all the stuff that comes in with
Yes,
watercolor.
you're right. You're right. That is interesting. And maybe that's why I'm having so much fun with this gouache, because it really works with the way I think about all these shapes.
Yeah. And I'm actually finding it easier to see. I'm always like, what does she do? Because usually you'd have built the shadow in a wash and varied the color, right? But now I'm seeing the build up to where you wanted to get. So I'm fascinated.
Yeah.
So Shari, can you speak to the sketchbook that you're using, the paper surface? I don't know whether you mentioned it earlier.
Yeah. Well, when I was, again, starting to prepare for that etcher demo that I was doing, they said, we could send you something if you want to try one of our products. And I said, well, I don't usually work on hot press paper, but since I'm doing a demo in gouache, that might be kind of interesting. So they sent me hot press paper, which I don't really like in watercolor as much, because I don't like the edges that it creates, because you have to work so quickly and it creates these hard edges in watercolor. But I said, you know what, let me try the hot press book for this demo, and we'll see if I like it. And as it turns out, I really like it for gouache, because it's a smoother paper, and gouache is very creamy, so it doesn't, and the way I use it is very creamy, so it doesn't catch on the hills and valleys of cold press paper. So that's why I think it's fun to work on. I'm really enjoying using the hot press paper for this.
Interesting. So have you incorporated gouache technique into your watercolor painting, or the other way?
Yes. The other thing that I've been doing is that sometimes when I go out, I just put a blob of white gouache on my watercolor palette. And I learned that from reading Nathan Folk's book, Some of you may have seen it. I don't know if I have it here. And he goes out on location with his watercolor palette and a blob of white gouache. And I didn't realize that you could do that. And that's such a nice way of working. So I always had gouache or white watercolor with me for little highlights in my watercolors, but I never tried his method of using just, he said it's very good and economical because you have all these watercolors already. So you can get the same effect as gouache just by adding white gouache to your regular watercolor palette.
Sure.
So I thought that was great. And I took it with me. And if you saw that series of sunrises that I did when I was in Mexico last year,
yes.
Yeah, that was all using that, so that was fun. That was just watercolor and gouache on toned paper.
And for anybody that's wondering what that book is, I'll put a link to it when I send out an email.
Yeah. So I'm just mixing up a little blue-green because this label has a little blue-green. And then I'm going to put some highlights on this because I haven't put any whites. So I thought I'd just show how I do the highlights and the whites.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
How much time left? I know I'm talking a lot.
No. It's fabulous to watch it happen. Actually, I'm seeing a lot of why you work with a flat brush here, especially when you did that bottle cap just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, because I use it a lot to do that. Yeah.
No, and questions while from all of you, questions in the chat box, because Shari's doing the last bits of this, but she can talk through questions you have. Any questions you had about particular supplies, also ask them because I will send you links to them from Shari later in an email.
Maybe everybody is too engrossed in their sketching.
I know.
Yeah, that's
fantastic.
Good. That's good. So now I'm just doing little repairs of places that I messed up and painted over. So this is also what I mixed up some clean paint. You could see the blue here, the blue purple here, without white in it. And I wanted to go over a couple of these little areas here, like that, just to polish up the edges. And
so it's never all lost, right? You can bring it back.
Yeah, you can bring anything back. And yeah, it's so much fun. Paul, do you ever paint in gouache?
Not yet, but I do have a white tube of gouache nearby. Yeah. And I like to use hot press, so I think this is gonna work for me if I start using gouache. So.
That's right. You use hot press paper a lot, right, Paul?
Yeah, I love to use hot press because I like my pencil to glide on my paper, and also I like the edges that I get after the paint dries. So I don't like it fuzzy and blurry as well. Yeah. The problem I find when I'm using gouache is I need a lot of clean water because the water does get chalky quite quickly.
Yeah, I have a lot of water and I have 2 containers here, and I also
so that's the only issue. Yeah, when you go out doing gouache.
When I work on location, Paul, I take a little tube of gouache and I take that tool we don't often use, a water brush, because I will only put my water brush into the tube because otherwise my whole palette gets gray, my watercolor palette. So yeah.
So now I'm gonna. No, I was just going to say I'm going to take pure white paint now.
So this is
do some highlights.
The last.
Yeah, and I haven't put lettering on yet, but we'll see if we have time for it. But
yeah,
I took I actually took a little. Right? I took a round brush for this.
Okay.
Because it's nice to just put dots.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
So is this like the finishing, the last bit of the painting for you?
Yeah, I think it's getting close to that. I still would like to do. There's places of lettering and different little things that I'd like to put in, but let's see how much time. I'll go by what you say. If you say there's time, I'll show people how I do the lettering too.
Yeah, you can show maybe 1 ink bottle. I think that's fine. I think finishing is always scary and challenging for a lot of us because you are running the last few miles or last few meters and
Yeah.
you're trying to cross the hurdle. So what goes through your mind in this finishing phase?
I think, like with watercolor, a lot of times it's a matter of stepping back from your work and getting a little perspective on it. So, we can get too caught up in all the details, but sometimes, I was painting in Rockport in Massachusetts, and this woman came along and she saw me painting, and I guess after a while I realized she was quite an experienced watercolor. And after we talked for a while, she said, "Stop." And I said, "What?" And she said, "Stop,
what?
your painting's done. Your painting's done." And she said, "If you make another mark on it, you're going to regret it." And she was right. So sometimes you have to step back from your work. And she was so right.
Wow.
And I thought that was kind of a bold move on her part, but it was so true. I don't know if I would have had the courage to say to another painter, "Stop what you're doing." But I thought that was pretty funny.
I have a couple of friends I'll sketch with who'll say that to me now, and it's always useful for me because I most of the time I think I should have stopped 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, I think it's good.
But that's lovely doing that. I have Barbara, thank you. I'm glad you got the book. I hope you enjoy it. And Rohit has a question for you about what you're doing right now, Shari. He says, what tip do you have to avoid the paint, to keep the paint on the tip and not move it to the heel of the brush, if that makes sense?
Well, I think it has to do with the way you pick it up. So first of all, you can just put the tip in like that on a round brush.
And your paint is creamy, right? You're not.
It's very creamy. Look at that. It's very creamy. And the other thing I do is I go like this with my brush, and I sort of push it down to the end. And then when I'm using the brush, it's the way I'm holding it too. I'm not putting it on this one. I'm not putting it down. I'm holding it up. Upright. So that helps, I think. And here I'm doing a little bit of lettering, and it says encre, which is ink in French. So my tip for lettering is that you start in the middle of like the surface. So I did the middle letter first, because sometimes people say, well, what if you don't have enough room? So I start with the middle letter, and I try to paint not exactly everything. So I don't do all the letter, but I just do bits of them, you know.
So that tip is from your graphic design background, right?
Correct.
Yay.
Even I'm looking at how you are getting to the style of the lettering. So yeah, lettering is fascinating.
Yeah, it is. And I love doing it. So here because the front of this bottle is kind of in shadow, I picked up a little gray instead of, and sometimes I even just go like that. Like I make a line to get the movement of the bottle, and then I put the lettering.
Because it needs to curve around, right?
Yeah, because it needs to curve around, exactly. So I put that in like that. And, sometimes, again, that's like an old graphic design trick, because before computers, we used to draw the lines on the paper.
That's right.
There's a comment from Zoe saying, I love the idea of reflecting on what I'm thankful for. She's made 3 sketches already just now in this session of things she's thankful for, and she's going to use it as a theme to finish her sketchbook. So fantastic.
Oh, it's great. It was a great reflection for me too, although I couldn't share. I don't know why.
Don't worry. We'll screenshot it or something.
I'll give it to you.
The good thing is,
you can send
but the good thing is we have a recording of the first session, which you shared.
We have it from the first session, Shari. So
we can all watch it again. Yeah, so nothing is lost. Well, it's like COVID, right? We learn how to make do.
Caitlin has a comment, says that I've heard gouache photographs especially well. I guess
good question. I scan everything. I know Suhita photographs.
I'm too busy to, but I don't know about you, Shari. Like, in a graphic design we used a lot of so I didn't do my artwork myself, but the studio that did it used something called poster colors a lot, because it's a lot like gouache and it's flat. So when they photographed it, there's no reflection. So all the illustrators used gouache for advertising.
Yeah, I think it's probably right, but I've never tried, because I'm just so used to scanning all of my work. So that's my daily thing. My scanner gets a workout every day. So it does scan well.
Yeah, that's fabulous. So he says, do
Someone
any
has
of
that.
you try new art things, new subjects, or new tools like Shari? It's been the
Yes,
year
all
of
the
trying
time.
new things, right? It's been
Yeah,
especially the year of trying new things. So
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So we've been painting with our fingers, our fork, spoon, and yeah,
Yes.
we will show you how we play. And we also like to tell you that what we do here isn't reserved for special occasion. We do this all the time as warm up. Shari, I'm curious. Do you do a bit of warm up before you start doing all your paintings?
I like to, if I have time. I mean, if I'm doing a big painting, I'll do a value study,
Mhm.
usually either in pencil or in Payne's Gray watercolor. But just it doesn't take long I find for me to get rusty. So I try to draw every day on my iPad, and that really helps. Even though,
Precisely.
yeah,
So yeah,
that
so you are keeping your practice up. I mean, you are putting pen to paper in some form every day.
Yeah, I do, even though I don't always post everything on
Sure.
my blog, but I do try and do that even if I don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
And then one thing I forgot to mention in my thankful things is that I really, really miss connection with students, and having to cancel workshops, left a void because I wasn't doing any teaching at all. So I've been very, very thankful that I started creating courses, and people have been so wonderfully supportive and taking the courses, and that allows me to create more, which is wonderful. So I've very, very, very thankful for having the time to connect with students that way, because otherwise it would be
That's
be
true.
terrible,
Yeah.
not
And for
being able
those
to
of
do
you that
any
don't
teaching.
know, I will send links to Shari's online teaching courses. And actually, she also has a special discount for us, right? For the
Yes, we'll
Yep.
party.
tell you very, very shortly.
Yes,
So
Paul's going
we'll
to
Yes.
share
give,
that screen.
yeah. So we'll
Just
give for Shari a couple more minutes to wrap up, and then we can jump into the last bit.
Yeah, so I'm just doing the last little things on here that I still am happy that I'm not a photographic realist painter, so I still want to keep it kind of loose
Mhm.
and a little bit mushy at the edges, and that's the other thing that I like about gouache, keeping a little bit of a painterly look to it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so I'm doing these last little things. Of course, when you're talking, it's hard to look at your subject and know if it's okay, but
Yeah.
anyway, that's the reason you need to step back from it
So
sometimes.
I'm seeing a message from Jessie saying that in March, which is at the beginning of lockdown here, I guess she started keeping a journal of all the stuff a visual journal of gratitudes. And today's sketch is going to be the final spread. That's
Oh,
Yay.
that's
quite a
nice.
record. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm seeing somebody else say they're thankful for Paul's Instagram posts. And so he says, thankful for being able to join so many online courses from creators in this worldwide lockdown. It has been unusual, right? In the fact that it's a
Yeah.
worldwide lockdown. It's not
Yeah.
one
And
part of the world. It's, yeah.
And I know we've talked about this a lot, Suhita, but how happy we are to have this opportunity to learn during this time,
Yes, yes.
whether it's by having the time to read people's books or also by just taking online classes or watching demos for people's work who you would never really get to see,
Yeah.
because everybody's at home. So the world, as far as watching teachers in watercolor or other kinds of or urban sketchers or whatever, there's so much opportunity now, and I'm just so appreciative of that,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
these are people that we might not be able to learn from or be able to afford to take workshops with, or or just sometimes it even just gives you an intro into a person's work, and you realize, well, maybe when this is over, I'll take a workshop with
Sure,
them.
sure. And somebody else mentioned this and it made me think of you. So somebody says thankful for garden and nature. And
Yes.
Rohit says he's sketching his gratitude jar, which I'd love to know what that is and see a sketch of it. But
Yeah.
one of the things I've seen, Shari, speaking of gardens, is I don't think I've seen a sketch of your garden from the summer before. So,
Yes, and that was something when you get to see my presentation that I wasn't able to open for whatever reason. It was that, yeah, I had time to take care of my garden and paint my garden, which I never have time to do in the summer. So that was really nice. I never get to do that.
lovely.
So this is, I think, sort of getting to the end. I just see one little thing that I forgot, but this is pretty much, I think,
do
finished.
it, finish it, and then yeah, we'll
There
we'll
was a
let.
little.
So while you're watching, everyone, we would like you to share, whatever you drew today. Use this hashtag Sketching PlayLab, so that we all can enjoy your sketches as well.
Yeah. Tell
Don't
us what
forget to
you've loved
share your
about this
stories.
year. We're definitely wanting to hear from you. Paul and I have done this 8 months, right? And we'd love to hear what
Yeah.
was the best part of it for you, what it brought to your practice, just anything that that you have to share. That's a personal experience. We'd love to hear it. And yes, hashtag Sketching PlayLab on Instagram.
Wow, Shari, that's beautiful.
Yeah, lovely. Those last bits really made it come alive.
It's
Awesome.
always the highlights and the shadows and the all of that, I think.
Lovely.
So yeah, this is pretty much done.
Great.
And the thing that I forgot to say, I mean, I've had this dilemma as well. You talked about working from photos, Suhita, and I love working from life so much. But and I would much rather work from some little bottles on here on my table than from a photo.
Yeah.
But I've also worked more from photos this year. But one thing I was realizing when I was doing something like this was, because the things that I like the most are light and shadow and color. And I was looking at these bottles and I was thinking, well, I could just as easily be painting something outside, light and shadow. But here I have an opportunity. There is light and shadow in here. It's not moving light, but it's an opportunity to observe. And so even though I'm home, I'm observing those things that I might observe outside that I can't get to.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's fantastic to see it go from where it was to a finished piece. It's great you shared that. Paul, do you want to share that little bit before we forget?
Yeah, so I hope I have your attention, because we have a little gift for you. So if you can see my screen,
yep,
I'm going to show you. Okay, our gift for you. So Shari has kindly, created a discount code for us for you to use starting from now. So just type in Sketching PlayLab 15 and you get a 15% discount store-wide. When you go to Shari's website, you can take any of her courses. How many courses do you have right now, Shari?
I think I just released the one that I just released today or yesterday is maybe the 8th that I've created since the start of COVID. So about one per month.
Nice.
Since the start, since April, which is pretty, which is a lot. But anyway, they're all that coupon will work for all of them. And one just sketching a Mexican street scene just released yesterday, and I haven't even promoted it anywhere. So you guys will be the first to know about it. And it was in my little presentation. But anyway,
do you want to say something about buying a course as a gift or a present?
Oh yeah, I forgot. That's right. Thank you for reminding me. So a lot of people do that. They just email me and they say, can I buy this for a friend? So what I do is I just make them a special coupon that they can give to a friend, and a lot of people have bought them as gifts. So I think it's a good idea. Yeah. So then I make them a 100% off coupon that they can give to their friends.
Oh, lovely!
It is a nice gift. Yeah.
Nice. So that's
Thank you for reminding me.
No problem. So remember, this coupon expires 31st of December. We also have our friend Maria from Art Toolkit that's so kindly created a discount code for us, and it's just PlayLab. You get 15% discount store at her shop, arttoolkit.com. So, later on, I'm sure Shuita can show you her mini palette as well.
Yes,
We
on my
we all
desktop.
have a mini palette that's really useful when we go out sketching, especially if you want to travel light, and it's really helpful. So remember, last 10 seconds for you to write down, the website. But don't worry, Sweeta's gonna give you more information when the email goes out.
Yes,
We will
I'll put
include,
all of this in
this.
an email. It'll be in a few hours, so that it hits you by Monday morning anywhere in the world. But I'll put all the questions you asked about supplies and links and all of that in an email, and the discount codes. So yeah.
So that's all from me. So we can move to the
Yes.
last bit of the
Oh yes. One of the
PlayLab
things we want to
block
do,
party.
Paul, is take pictures, right? So
Yes.
before we wrap up, before you and I do a wrap
So
up,
do you want to show us what you drew, and then maybe we
sure.
can get them
So,
ready?
yeah.
So what
So
were you drawing?
me, I was drawing. So the last few weeks, there's been persimmon on my desktop because we have a short season here, and I love orange. So it was
Wow.
actually with the little art toolkit from Maria. So all I did was pour some of my current favorite ink on the page. So the orange is a Noodler's ink. And then everything else is just the colors of that little palette. It's teeny. It's the size of that persimmon. It's smaller than the persimmon. So that was my sketch today. Stuff on my
Wow,
desk,
thank you.
always mess on my desk. I'm going to switch to yours. And you can tell us about what you have there.
Well, so that's my hiking shoe, and also the mess on my table. Just as a way
Nice.
to, and remember the block party with you guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's good time for us to hold up our sketchbook and take
Yes.
group
Pictures
photo
of.
together.
So you should be a little bit patient with me just because I have 3 screens of you and I don't know which screen you'll be in. So just hold it for a wee bit. Even if you hear 1 click, I need to go through 3 clicks. So there's one. And let me go to page 2. And 3. Lovely. Thank you so much for that.
Please share your sketches on Instagram. We love to see it up close as well.
Yeah. So very quickly before Paul closes it for everybody, thank you so much, Shari. Thank you for doing this for us.
Thank you, guys,
and especially
for
thank you for
inviting me.
doing it 2 times. Because this time we especially had a request because our usual block party is at a time that's middle of the night for Europe. So thank you for doing 2. Thank you everybody that came in and did this a second time with us. It's nice to feel like we met the community from all over the world. Paul and I are taking a little break with Sketching PlayLab over December. We're not gone. We're back in 2021. All we're doing is really taking a break to come up with some new courses, play some more between ourselves with friends like Shari, and we'll, hopefully that'll bring up new ideas for what happens in 2021. I know it's going to be a long December and many of us are back in lockdown. We'll try to do a couple of things on Instagram. I'll definitely message the group. So you'll hear from us if we are doing something live that you can join like this and draw with us. But mostly, thank you for a fantastic 8 months of coming and playing with us. I hope we keep you inspired and see you back in 2021. Paul, you want to take it from there?
No, you've said everything. So thank you very much for coming. Stay well, stay warm, because we know that winter is coming, but we won't be too far away from you. You can find us on Instagram. You can message us. We will be playing, but we'll definitely keep you in the loop. What are we playing with? I think some of you have snapshots of what we are playing with, and we really need this playtime as well. So don't forget to play. I hope this is an the next 2 days will be inspiring for you. Let us know if what else we can do for you, during this time, and hopefully we can see you very, very soon. So anything from you, Shari?
Thank you. That was so much fun. Not just from today, from the other day too, but also for sort of keeping me creative during this time, because meeting with you guys has really helped. So thank you. And, everybody have a a good Thanksgiving, holidays, December, New Year, and hopefully that we can sketch together in person in 2021 at some point.
Yay.
Yes, that would be
Thank you
lovely.
everybody for coming today. So have a great day ahead. See you all very, very soon.
All
Stay
right.
well. Bye.
Thank you and bye.